economic reforms, which was one of the major instrumental factor in reforms of the China. Basically, the India and China both were liberated at the same time. Yeah. And basically, India started in 1947, China started in 1950. That the form of government was different. India started in the democratic setup, the China started in the communist setup. And even the policy planning was also a little bit different. The focus on the China development policies programs laid emphasis on centralized government, and the India emphasized on the National Planning Commission sort of things to formulate the comprehensive 5-year plans. Basically, the reforms in China started in 1978, 79. And it made a rapid growth and industrial structural changes, which was visible from the first slide which I have given. And the sources of reforms were in the agriculture sector, in the industrial sector by way of market-based economy and attracting the foreign direct investment, tax reforms and the financial sector reforms. But the most important and the key elements of the reforms was the industrial reforms. Basically, the industrial reforms in 1978, at that time, there was the state-owned enterprises were having very poor performance. So that's why the main emphasis of the reform was to increase the efficiency of the SOEs by improving the incentive system and giving greater autonomy to them in the production and the investment planning. There was also emphasis on development on the township and village industries, TVEs. The entry of the TVEs increased the competition and excess profits of the SOEs, which were there before start of the reform, was computed away. The focus, one of the important focus on the reform was also on the development of the infrastructure, in the energy, in the transport. Basically, even if you see that the investment in the infrastructure went up to 8% of the GDP in China. These are some of the graphs regarding the increase in the energy production, and these are which were the major sources of the energy. The coal is the major source of energy. The second phase of the reform basically put the focus on the market-based economy. Basically, in 1994, when the SOE losses were increasing, the China decided to put the emphasis on the market-based economy. The company law was adopted in 1994, which provided the entry to the private sector. For the public sector, basically the State Asset Supervision Administrative Commission was set up, to whom the shares of all the state-owned enterprises were transferred, and there was subsequently some more commissions were set up to transfer the control of local government-owned enterprises. The reorientation of the reform put a lot of impetus on the industrialization. In 1980, the share of the private sector was almost nil. It went up to 57% in 2004. That was the impact of that one. But the main growth of China started after liberalization of the foreign direct investment, trade and investment. The China entered into WTO in 2001. Even before entering into WTO, it started reform that by replacing the administrative controls on imports and exports, gradual reduction on the tariff rates. The tariff rates, which were as high as 40%, came down to less than 14% in 2004. Import licensing was abolished, limited to 4% of the import. The share of export and import on the GDP increased from 4.6% and 5.2% to 28% and 26%. The shift in the orientation of the reform was basically on the attracting the foreign direct investment. And one of the most peculiarities was special economic zones, which my friend has already deliberated, so I will not put deliberate upon that one. But that was one of the important things in the development of the China. The focus was that to attract the foreign direct investment, especially in the special economic zones, by giving the tax incentives, by liberalization of the labor laws, certain things. The impact of the economic reforms was that from 1978 to 2005, the China GDP grew at an average annual rate of 9.6%, which was fastest amongst 5 major countries and far higher than the world average. If we compare with respect to purchase price parity, that's GDP in 2002 was 12% of the world total, placing it second just behind the United States. The China export also went up by 61 times at a growth rate of 17% from 10 billion in 1978 to $593 billion in 2004. By 2004, the China became the third largest exporting country in the world. Before it, only 2 countries was there. First is the United Kingdom and the another was the Germany. These are some of the graphs regarding the growth in the gross domestic product, then the per capita gross domestic GDP. This is, you can see the growth, which is very sharp. And again, if we compare with respect to the purchasing power parity, if comparing with India and US, then this is the percentage of the rural and urban population, because it would come as a lesson from this one. And this is the percentage of GDP at current prices in 3 industries: primary industry, agriculture, secondary industry, tertiary industry. And this is the percentage of employed persons in these 3 industries. I will not discuss these due to the time which we have. This is the birth rate and death rate. You can see that the birth rate is going down sharply, while the death rate is also almost steady. The associated problem, this higher growth rate was also associated with a lot of problems. The first problem was that there is a wide income inequality in the rural and urban areas. Basically, the urban areas developed faster, and basically even the coastal zones, there is a difference in the growth rate, and it was also associated with the environmental problem in the air pollution, then the water pollution, like that, which my friend has already been derivated. This is the per capita difference in the rural per capita income and the urban per capita. You can see that the difference in the gap, which is widening too high. And the conclusion which we can draw from the Chinese experience is that first thing is, one important thing on which the China put the emphasis was the infrastructure development, especially on the energy and the highway. Because without that, even if you set up the industry, it requires the energy to run the factory, to run the, because without that you can't. And further, now after somewhere around 2004, a lot of emphasis is being given on the telecommunication also as a mode of communication, and a lot of emphasis is also being given on the national highway, because these are some of the important things for the development of infrastructure, and ultimately which goes into the development of the growth of a country. In China was also having inefficient and state-owned enterprises, which India was also having, and it focused more on the market-based economy, and which increased the competition, and ultimately which resulted into the efficiency, which the India should also focus on the market-based economy, because this is one of the important things which ultimately increases the efficiency. Even in China, it created the competition for the state-owned enterprises, from the village enterprises, and ultimately from the private company. And another important thing is that the FDI was one of the instrumental factor in bringing the investment by bringing the technology, because one of the important thing in the development was that to bring the technology. And one of the things which happened in China, when you invite the investment, then it also carries with it the technology. And because technology is one of the important things, because the China was also having the labor like India has, but the technology was one of the important things which the China needed, and it came along with the FDI. These are some of the graphs which I will not be able to discuss due to time. And this is the GDP comparison, and this is the comparison of China and India in terms of growth percentage, growth rates, and all these things. This is the and the FDI inflow of comparison of India and China. You can see there is a wide difference. And this is the China and India comparison. It is up to 2050. This is a forecast. And with these comparisons, I thank you all of you for a patient hearing. Thank you.